Really sad because many times we get in a relationship with the hot and heavy and with some type of idea. She calls it idolizing marriage in this video, but this kind of idea in our mind of how things are just going to manifest themselves and then they don't, because we didn't really discuss them. We just had this idea in our mind. We didn't see our parents do it. We saw that movie and we said, they must have seen, the other person must have seen the movie too. It sounds like they want the same things that I do, so we're going to go for it. We're not really going to discuss it. And then when you get in the grind and you find out that the way you spend money doesn't align, you don't have the same thoughts about how to spend and save money. You don't have the same thoughts about investing. You don't have the same thoughts about how to run a household. You don't have the same thoughts about what it means to provide. All hell breaks loose. Welcome to You Can't Handle the Truth, the Voice First podcast for women over 40 who've outgrown silence, settled energy, and sugar-coated healing. Here, we say what you've been thinking and finally tell the truth your soul's been waiting to hear. I'm your host, Natalie, and every week we unpack healing, holy wisdom, generational rewrites, and grown woman discernment. This isn't your average feel-good podcast. This is where truth turns sacred, softness becomes power, and women rise with clarity. Because sis, if your intuition is speaking, you don't need permission to listen. You're not crazy. You're just finally clear. You've been reading energy longer than they've been playing games. Today we're doing real talk. Life after divorce. Debt. Forgiving yourself. And healing that inner child. Let's get into it. Welcome to You Can't Handle the Truth. My name is Natalie and we're just going to get down and dirty. I have a video here for you of a young lady that I watched who so reminded me of myself once upon a time. Once upon a time, I was this girl. I wanted to be married because that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to want to get married, have children, raise a family. I'm going to play some parts of this video for you because I feel that many of you out there can resonate with this, especially she's younger. This is Taylor budget, so we're going to give credit where credit is due to her. But she's younger and starting to come to some realizations after having 2 kids. As you can read the title, her title says Life Update, Getting a Divorce After 1.5 years, Idolizing Marriage, Back in Debt, and Forgiving Herself. So let's play a little bit of this. And for context, the reason why I'm bringing this to you is because many of you out here, I feel, will resonate with this. Many of us get married. I read so many stories of women my age, specifically after 40, going into your 40s, where you've been married, you've done the work, you're exhausted, and you feel like you're doing everything within the marriage and you're not getting help and all these things. I see all these things for women. Now for context also, I want to make sure that I also say that when we are unhealed, we don't realize and we romanticize marriage, right? We romanticize the Cinderella story. We go into marriages with this Cinderella story in our mind. And sometimes because we have that Cinderella story in our mind, we are not mindful of vetting the people that we will marry, whether you're a man or a woman. And so we create this whole story in our mind about who this person is going to be without realizing who they are. And then when we get into the marriage now, we think, whether you're a man or a woman, you think you can change that woman or you think you can change that man into something else. Sometimes we don't vet to see whether or not is that man that you're going to marry, is he a provider? Is he going to protect you? Is he going to protect your children? And when I say that, that means providing shelter, providing food, like providing the things, right? Especially now we're going into a recession here in the United States, anyhow. I don't know about for other countries. We know how important having someone by us who is providing, how important that can be. And it's not that love isn't important, but that feeling of love that you have when you first meet somebody, that's one thing. And yes, that love carries through, and that love may get you through some fights, but oh my goodness, it's your goals together that will get you through. It's your determination to get through that will get you through. And the love will pop up here and there in the relationship. When you're in the moment and you're not getting along, a lot of times the last thing you're thinking about is that Cinderella story and how in love you are. But in those moments, you will think to yourself, well, that other person needs to show up and with the glass slipper and put that glass slipper on your foot, right, ladies? Where is he? Why isn't he doing that? And for my gentlemen out there, you're not vetting these women. Are you vetting women to see, can they take care of the home? Will they back you up when you're leading in the relationship? Because they say that the men lead in a relationship. And a lot of times women go into a relationship and we want to lead because we've been doing the most for a long time. When you have a real man in your life who is a protector and a provider, he will listen to you, but he will lead. And sometimes you're going to have to just chill and let him lead. And that can be really hard for women. I have a couple different clips that I'm going to share with you. One is this lady here, Taylor Budgets. And then I have another lady after this who so shocked me that I'm going to have to share with you. And I think I'll have time to share her with you in this video to give you a few examples of how we expect and what do we think actually being a provider means. Because when it's hot and heavy, it's hot and heavy and it's great, right? But all that hot and heavy is not going to pay your bills. It's not. When the mortgage comes due, when the car payment comes due, when retirement time comes due, the hot and heavy will not pay the bills. But your ability to put your heads together, have a game plan for your life, will. And are you able to do that? Is the person that you chose able to do that with you? And it's really sad because many times we get in a relationship with the hot and heavy and with some type of idea. She calls it idolizing marriage in this video, but this kind of idea in our mind of how things are just going to manifest themselves and then they don't, because we didn't really discuss them. We just had this idea in our mind. We didn't see our parents do it. We saw that movie and we said, they must have seen, the other person must have seen the movie too. It sounds like they want the same things that I do, so we're going to go for it. We're not really going to discuss it. And then when you get in the grind and you find out that the way you spend money doesn't align, you don't have the same thoughts about how to spend and save money. You don't have the same thoughts about investing. You don't have the same thoughts about how to run a household. You don't have the same thoughts about what it means to provide. All hell breaks loose. And sometimes whatever that feeling was that you had of love at the beginning is not going to be enough to guide you through. Do you know how many women and men say, oh my gosh, yeah, we're divorced, but they were a really great person. Why is that? They were a great person, but they were not a great person for me. How many people say that? I'm sure there's the opposite too, where we say that person sucked. Like, you know what? That person was terrible. I'm going to play this video, but I really needed to set the tone for this because the interesting thing about this is that once you have children with someone, Once you, especially when you have children with someone, already you picked them, you married them. And once you have children with them, running around bad mouthing them is actually a poor reflection on you. Because you picked them, you married them. And I don't care what happened. When you're running around bad mouthing and putting that other person down, it's not a good look. It's really not a good look. Not for you. And it doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes and we don't need to move on with our lives. What we need to realize is that we made the choice. We need to look at, and I love this girl. You're going to watch this clip here. We need to decide that we played a part in making a bad decision, whatever that is. And that those bad decisions that we made have consequences that we don't necessarily like, but we just can't completely put the blame on the other person because we participated. We participated, whether it was by engaging in X with that person and having a child and then having to step up and take care of that child. That's a choice. That was, you made that decision and that's where it landed you, happy or not. Let's play this video and then we'll talk about it. All right. Now I hope, I don't know. Let's see.
So about a month and a half after having Judah, my second born, I did separate from him. And me, Judah, and Lauren, my two kids, we have been living with my grandparents since mid-March. Like I mentioned, today is July 5th. So that's an update on my marriage. So why? A multitude of things. And I'm not going to say every detail simply because I do respect Judah's dad. I respect my husband still. He's still my husband. And I'm just not in the business of talking bad about people.
Let me stop there for a minute. I love this girl for this. She's going to share some things. She's not going to share everything because she respects her husband. She respects her children's dad. You're going to hear about a lot of other things. It's not like she's happy about her decision, but the fact that she can still get on here and say that she has respect for him, I really give her kudos for that because she's doing this publicly and one day her children may see this video. So we need to think when we do things, right? What will your children see? What impression do you want to leave on them about you?
Social media, that's just not what I do. And even if I had something bad to say, I would never, because it's just not right. Like, that's just not how God wants us to move. So I'm not going to move that way. My flesh wants to like give you guys all the tea, but as a woman of God and someone who does have integrity, I would never, ever, ever bash someone on my platform, because that's not what my platform is about. I would never, just wouldn't do that, period. Even when the cameras are turned off, I would never do it.
This girl has so much composure. She has so much strength because it is what you want to do. It's the first thing you want to do is bash the other person. And it's not worth it.
So with that being said, I'm going to give you guys reasons why we are getting divorced. These are reasons we have both talked about, and I don't think he would mind me sharing them. So the first thing is that before we got married, we shouldn't have. Let's just say. We shouldn't have gotten married. For me, I idolized marriage. I wanted to be married so bad. So bad. My friends were married. I feel like people were, booed up and just married with kids living happy lives. And I always felt like the one in my family or the one in my friend group who didn't have a husband,
This is why we don't aspire to do what other people do. Don't just do what other people do because that's what they're doing or they look happy. You don't know what's going on in their household. You don't know what's going on with them. And what's for them may not be for you. FYI.
My mom told me that ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be married. So I think subconsciously I've always idolized marriage. As I've gotten older, I think I idolized.
It's the Cinderella story. It is absolutely the Cinderella story. We see the princess stories. We need to talk real talk with our girls. Because the Cinderella story, it's, I don't think it's can't be part of the story, but there's so much more to that story than just the happily ever after. And we all go out there, we seek the happily ever after. When that happily ever after starts to look a little dim, like it's not happening, or it does not looking like the happily after ever after we saw in the movie, things quickly change.
It more because people are getting married. You know, you're seeing marriages, whether they're flourishing or not, you're seeing them on social media. You know, a lot of people don't share the downs, they only show the ups. So when you're on social media, you tend to compare yourself, and you're like, dang, I'm not there, you know, and I want to be there. So I idolized it a lot. I wanted to be married. I wanted to be a wife. I believe I was ready to be a wife. I still do believe.
And you know what I have to say about this? I have to say that for the younger generation, it's even worse now. The Cinderella story is even worse because they do have social media. And maybe even now for us who are in our 40s and 50s, if you're divorced, if you're out in the dating world or whatever, or you're maybe looking for a significant other, you are still exposed to social media, which is something that's a lot different than what we had when we were younger. Yes, when we were younger, we had movies. In my generation, you know, I'm in my 50s, so in my generation, we had the Cinderella stories, but now you have people posting on social media that their life is just so wonderful and so beautiful, and they don't tell you. Don't forget, when you're looking at those happily ever after pictures, you're just seeing the good side. You don't see all the negativity, all the downsides that are going on in their household. They'll never post it. It doesn't sell.
I'm ready to be a wife. Even through everything my husband and I have gone through, I still do believe I have the characteristics and the qualities. I think I've done the work. We just shouldn't have gotten married. Like, we are incompatible or incompatible. We are not compatible. Before we got married, we had a lot of discussions. Like, we thought we were ready to get married. Like, we were having Bible studies and we were fasting together. And, you know, I would travel to see him. He would travel to see me. He had a great relationship, still does have a great relationship with Lauren. I trusted him with my daughter, that was like number two. Number one was being a man of God, which he is. Number two was my idolization of marriage comes from something. And right now I am in therapy working through that part, amongst other things. I'm working with my therapist to figure out why I idolize marriage so much, why I feel like a relationship or marriage is going to complete me, why I want a man so bad, you know? Like, I understand that. I understand the want and desire to be with someone, but why did I idolize it so much to where I was so content in my life before meeting him? Why did I feel like even back then I didn't have it all, or I didn't have enough, or something so big was missing? Hindsight is 2020, right? So now I'm looking back, I'm like, I was good. Lauren and I were good, you know.
This is really interesting. She says something here that's really interesting and brings me back to a point that I already made, is that we somehow, I think I made this point already, if not, I'm going to make it now, that we want that Cinderella story. We want to be married from when we're little girls. We're like, we're going to get married. We're going to have the big wedding. We're going to have this and that, right? And we just the idea of getting married, we just think that getting married is everything. And there's nothing wrong with getting married. I think that especially in this economy. These kids today are unable to make it by themselves. And what really drew my attention to her story is just how humble she was, or how humbled she is by the situation, because I remember being humbled. And also the fact that she has two children now. She has one from a previous relationship. I don't know if she was married to the first child's dad. And then now this one. She has two children. In this economy already, doing it by yourself with no kids is hard enough. We do eventually want to have a two-person household. You want to get married, but you want to get married for the right reason, and you want to choose and make sure that you're choosing the right one for yourself. And then when you have kids, it gets even harder to find someone. I've been seeing a lot online where now men have platforms where they are sharing with other men that they should not marry women with children. So many women with children, right, after they leave their husbands, are going on. What I'm about to say, and I'm about to say it because there's many of you out there, probably in your 40s, tired of your relationship and you're ready for an out. And if it's abusive, I always say it's time to get out. But can you make it work? Can you make it work? Can you step into your authentic self and still make it work? Because these men out here, especially if they don't have any children, what they don't want to do is go and get a woman with children. They don't want to be stepfathers to children because they don't want to deal with the other baby daddy. And now when you have two babies, two daddies, they don't want to deal with two baby daddies. This is from the horse's mouth. I've been listening to men online talk about this. They do not. They call it, you have too much going on. And so after this, it just gets so much harder to find someone to spend the rest of your life with, so to speak. At this point, she's doing the right thing. She's going to therapy. She's going to work on healing herself. But that doesn't change. Some of the consequences of our actions don't go away. The kids are here. The baby daddies are here. And she has to deal with them till the kids get older. And by the way, just for time's sake, I'm going to link her in the description box. You can go watch this whole video. It's about an hour long. I'm not going to play her whole video here. But she goes on to say she's struggling with the kids, right? She was struggling with one before. She's struggling with the kids, and the baby's daddies are not paying child support. And she left this baby daddy because he wasn't supporting her. He wasn't doing the things to help her pay for the household. So I don't know. Only she knows if this was the right decision for her or not for her. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I just say I can empathize with her story, and her story has a rough road ahead. Things will get better, of course, at some point. And hopefully this is lessons learned, that there's not going to be a third baby daddy, because it just becomes more and more and more difficult. And when you bring another man into your house and you have children, how are they going to interact with them? For her, she says the second husband interacted well with her first daughter, but I don't know what that means when she says interacted well, because, and you can go through and listen to this yourself, because it doesn't sound like he's providing for the children. So if he's laughing and playing and shooting the ball with them, that's great. But how about the providing part? How about the putting food on food and shelter over their head? And it looks like she's moved back in with her grandparents. She's depleted her bank accounts in supporting herself after having the second child that she originally did not want to have, but he wanted to have. Sometimes the consequences of our actions follow us for the rest of our lives, and this is one of those. Marriage and children follow you for the rest of your life. It's really, really not easy. So you do have to go to therapy. You do have to forgive yourself. You do have to understand what are the childhood wounds that led you to even allow this to happen, to either miss the red flags or even just ignore them, right? Because I'm sure that this man showed many red flags before she decided to marry him. And she was just so wanting to be married that she was willing to overlook all the red flags of whatever. The fact that he was not planning or did not want to or did not have the ability or capability to provide for her and the child that she had, let alone going ahead and letting him, when he could not do that, talk her into a second child. One of the other things I've seen online is sometimes men, even though they know they can't take care of the child, like they will trap you because they know that what the one thing that men know is that if they can impregnate you and get you to be a baby mama, that you are essentially, you're tied to them. You're tied to their legacy, whether or not they take care of the child. It's kind of a, I don't know, sick way of thinking, and men do this for a multitude of reasons, but basically because they know it keeps you stuck and it makes you less attractive to the next person, to the next man, because men are very territorial. Facts.
Everything was on my shoulders. Finances, home stuff, future plans. I started to feel like I was doing everything while carrying a child. And I communicated that with him and I said, hey, I'm gonna need your help more because I can't do everything. And then shortly after that, I found out that I was gonna have unpaid maternity leave. So I was like, unpaid maternity leave is coming up. The last thing I want to do is use my savings to pay bills while I'm on maternity leave. I said, we have to figure out how to make more money so that during my maternity leave and after, we can be financially stable. I said, and this was probably 2 or 3 months. I was probably pregnant for 2 or 3 months. So this was early on in my pregnancy. I told him, I said, I'm going to need you to work harder so that we can have money saved and stored up for when I'm not working and things. I don't think he took it well. I think he took it well because he rebelled with everything.
How are you rebelling when you got a kid on the way? And see, that's the thing. That's where overlooking the red flags at the beginning comes in. So we got so married. We had such a good time. We had a blast at the wedding. The relationship was hot, heavy. All the emotions that go into that were hot and heavy. But then when it came down to doing the real things that you have to do, you're absent. That person's absent. And this happens both to men and women. We're hearing her story, so she's talking about the husband, but this happens to men also, where men think like they're going to have a woman that's going to stand by them, be there in the household, walk by them, support them, and then it's all hot and heavy at the beginning, the great party, the great wedding, the fun, the blast of the big wedding, and then they find out like, whoa, wait a minute, we are not on the same page. She has a different vision because y'all didn't talk about it.
I asked and said, like, as a budgeter, I look forward. I look at not just the now, I look at 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. And the way our finances were financing, with me going on maternity leave and I don't know, possibly not going back to work after because daycare is expensive, I knew what we needed to do to get to a place where our finances would be okay and I could stay home possibly. But I felt like I was doing that all by myself. Like I can't get a second job because I'm pregnant and taking care of myself and taking care of you, my husband. I said I can't get a second job, so you have to probably look for a second job, right? Uber, something.
And see, that's the thing, right, ladies? When you find yourself in a position that you're just doing it all, you start to think, wow, I could do it all by myself. But at the same time, now she has a second baby. Things just get harder. The decisions you have to make just get harder. All I have to say is go ahead and watch Taylor Budget's. She's younger, but if you are even in your 40s, right, and you have young kids and you're thinking about leaving, if you're thinking about it's not working, you want to check out her video, or even if you have, you want to take a listen to her story because it just sheds light that what we experience as women and men out there is, first of all, it's not very different from one person to the next. The story is the same. Her story so reminds me of mine at one point. And the fact that we need to understand why we overlook certain things and why we allowed certain things to begin with, why we didn't see the red flags to begin with before we went and involved ourselves into a relationship like this. Because now, not just does she have kids, she has child support. The one thing I want to say though is that this young lady she's living with her grandparents. They have allowed her in, and she says that her family, uncles, aunts, or even her mom has been super supportive, and they did not tear her down. She's very fortunate in that sense because many get torn down on top of having all this going on, making the bad decision, overlooking the red flags, having the childhood traumas that are unhealed that led you to make these really bad decisions and needing therapy. You have family tearing you down for going through things that are a result of traumas, generational traumas that were passed down to you and are unhealed within the family itself. She's really fortunate that they are not tearing her down, but she does need therapy to figure out how to go forward, because even though they're not tearing her down, because they are not completely healed, they may not have a good path forward for her at this point. This girl is brave. She didn't come in here and put all her dirt out there, but she shared some of her story that I think really brings to light that where it's not just, it brings to light why and how we get into these situations in the first place. And the one thing it doesn't shed light though is the why the men on the other end, or why the person on the other side just really feels compelled to not do their part. Or maybe it's that they can't. That's the part we have to realize, is that when we're romanticizing or idolizing that thing, right, the marriage itself, you're not looking at the person for who they are and what they bring to the table. And so you've idolized this thing in your mind, but you're going to be married to a person who has to make this thing come true. If they're throwing up red flags all over the place, how are you going to make it come true? And so many of us think, like she did probably, that she could do it on her own. Like she had a daughter, she had savings already, right? That money that she had saved in her bank account, and she just thought, I can do it. To the point of, it sounds like she just said she was taking care of him. And so I'm taking care of you, and now you got me pregnant, and I'm going to have another child to take care of. So it's like now she has 3 children. I think sometimes we don't understand how we've gotten here until we realize that that's where we're at. And yeah, a lot of therapy, a lot of therapy to get through it, and a lot of forgiving yourself for not seeing your childhood wounds and traumas that led you to this. I think she does go on to say that she saw a lot of like bad relationships growing up, right? And so she didn't have a good relationship modeled. And so the only model she had was probably that Cinderella story she saw, which is not real. That's an illusion, right? That is such an illusion. The other part of this is also, I think, because of this illusion, you don't, part of it is that you don't realize what your own worth is, because nobody has ever really told you. And even if somebody told you, like, you've never really sat and saw your own worth. In order to set boundaries with people, see the red flags for what they are, you have to realize what your worth is, what your self-worth is. And once you realize what your self-worth is, you won't settle. That's why the men who make six figures have never been married. They know the value that they bring to the table as a provider. And so a lot of them will not engage with women who have children. They don't want to be a stepdaddy. They don't want to deal with baby daddy. That's not what they're looking for. When you know your worth, you know what you're looking for. And I'm not talking either about the women that are out there talking about, oh, he has to make six figures for me to be with him, or he has to be driving this car or that car and have a house and all of this. Because if you have the right person making $40,000 when you meet, but they understand their value and you understand yours, you can really build together. I honestly believe that. But you have to understand if the person sees the value that they have, whatever it is that you see in them, because you could see it in them, but they're not bringing the value to the table. Do you see the value in yourself? And does that person value you? And do you value them? Because see, we treat people based on how we value them. So if you're married to a man who doesn't value you, he will not provide. It's a game, as far as I'm concerned. If you're married to a woman who doesn't value you, she will not stand by your side. She will cheat. A lot of things will happen. She doesn't understand your value. So those conversations need to be had ahead of time. And sometimes actions speak louder than words. So when you're seeing the red flags are what they are. Do you know, I saw the other day that men will say yes to getting married even though they don't love you, because they don't like to rock the boat or make you feel bad. They don't like to make people feel bad. And then that's why you see those same men on TikTok talking about how they can't stand their wives. They're on TikTok making videos, sitting outside their home, talking about how they can't stand their wives. I gotta go in here. I gotta go in my house. I gotta go pretend, blah blah blah. That I gotta go play the role when I go in here, but I can't stand her, and the only reason I'm with her is because I couldn't do better. So it's not really her that he wanted someone else. And now with TikTok, people are so bold to get on and just say anything that they feel. And I just think it's just really sad. And meanwhile, the woman's inside the house trying to prove her worth to him, and he just doesn't see it. And so I guess that's where it gets kind of sketchy, right? When we don't see the value of the person that we're with. And if you don't see the value of that person before you marry them, will you see it after? Right? Will you? Because when you value something, you treat it, something that's valuable, right? You put it in a glass case. You put it away. You put it where no one else can touch it. You nurture it. You take care of it. When you don't value something, you just take it, you might throw it on the floor, you look at it, you play with it, and then when you're done with it, you toss it in the trash. And this is what people are doing to each other because they are getting in relationships that we shouldn't even be in. Definitely a lot of therapy, a lot of finding yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what your worth is, your self-worth is before you engage in a relationship, you engage in even thinking about getting married. I'm going to play another clip here for you and show you the other side of this. I'm going to show you a woman who just doesn't appreciate her husband. And like I said, you can start a family with a man who doesn't make $100,000. But if you value each other, you can build together. And you're going to see her reaction to him. When I saw this, it was so sad because I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, this man has the right mindset. This man, he's providing for her and she's tearing him down for providing for her instead of seeing that the way that he's providing for her is going to allow them to build and have bigger and better things later. We are so obsessed with what we see people on social media do and have that we think that we're just supposed to out of the gate jump out and we're supposed to have all these things, and then when the person can't provide it for us, then we're tearing them down. And it's going to be on the other end of the spectrum of what's happening in Taylor Budget's situation here. Just a very interesting contrast, just a different mindset. And you guys can drop me a comment and let me know what you think about these. All right. Hold on. All right. So I found the clip I was looking for. This woman destroyed her husband's surprise to her. And I think you will be surprised. Let's just watch it and then we'll talk about it.
It's our house, babe. I just bought it.
This house? He bought her a house as a surprise, but her reaction flips the whole moment upside down.
This house, babe. What's wrong?
It's not the house we agreed on. Why would you do that?
Because it's what I could afford.
You care about me being happy or you being happy? Because I'm not happy with this. This is not what's supposed to have on.
I care about both of us being happy. You're not making no payments, so at least.
I'm not going to stay here. I'd rather stay where we are now.
Well, where we are now, we renting. This we own in here. You ain't even seen the inside.
I don't want to see the inside. To me, look, no. It's small. Look at that little window. You can afford better than this.
You don't spend all your money on the house, babe. You got to keep something in the bank.
This is not what I expected to how I want to live my life. Boy, what is this, a closet? How are we supposed to fit our sectional in here?
Right here, somewhere.
This the master?
This the master bedroom, babe.
This is horrible. You didn't even think about me. You didn't think about your kids. You thought about yourself in your pockets.
That might be the problem. You just want what you want.
Exactly. Happy wife, happy life. Where are we?
I don't know. You do with that what you will. I'm going to link this this creator also in the description. But this man literally went and bought his house a wife. His house a wife. Yeah, I guess he bought his house a wife. I don't know. He bought his wife a house. And this was her reaction, you know. And this is him making sure that with the money he makes, that he can provide for her, that she has a place to be with her kids, where they don't have to pay. He paid cash for this. And this was her reaction. And so I think we all need to know and understand, just like we need to see the red flags, we also need to understand when someone is bringing a blessing into our lives. And this woman missed the mark. This woman in this video just missed the mark. Because with this house, they could build, save, invest, and in 10 years have so much more. But she can't see it. The first thing he said to her, he goes, we shouldn't put all our money into our house. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't going to provide for her. He gave her a house. He gave her somewhere to live. Rent free. And she's like, no, I'd rather back to the place where we're living because it looks nicer. And so in both stories here, you can just see that looks can be deceiving. Things aren't always what they seem. And so we need to heal. Like this woman needs therapy. I think she needs therapy. We need to heal those childhood wounds so that we can see our blessings. But then also so we can see when the devil's coming at us, right? When the devil's talking to you. When you're getting into those situations that you shouldn't even be in. And it's really ironic because both that first woman I showed you got into that situation of getting married. Why? For the same reason. Social media. This woman's acting the way she's acting. Why? Because why? Social media. This is not what I'm supposed to have. Well, what do you mean? Like, you couldn't go out and buy this house yourself. Your husband went out and bought this house and said, hey, we're going to have somewhere to live and we're going to be able to save some money because we're going to make this work and we're going to build this life together. And you're just like, no, I don't want to build a life together. I want to create the make-believe life so that I can show everyone that we have this huge life, that we're living large when we're really not. I don't know. And I think it's all about the show. I think that that's what we need to get away from. And we need to remember that I'm not telling any of you out there. I know many women get to this point in time, especially at 40, in your 40s and 50s, when you're actually considering leaving. But I just say to you, before you leave, get therapy for yourself. Understand your childhood wounds before you walk out of that marriage. And understand what you're getting into. Understand that whatever fairy tale social media is feeding you is not what's really out there. So, I mean, after that, do you? You know, people get divorced, they get remarried, and they have happy lives. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in order to have that happy life, there's a lot of healing that goes on. Or else you're just going to rinse and repeat, right? Until you can't anymore. Until finally you're sitting somewhere and either you're a man and you're sitting all alone, or you're a woman and you're sitting all alone. And we all want someone to share our lives with after all, right? People do not generally want to live a lonely life. We are built for connection, but we need to have the right connection. And not just do we need to have the right connection and just put it all on the other person to bring in that right connection. We need to be in the right mind space ourselves so that we are bringing in that right mindset into the connection, because connection equals two people. It's not just one. It takes two to tango. And so when it goes bad, it takes two. It takes two to make a thing go right, and it takes two to make a thing go wrong. And so we just need to be mindful of what part we played in that equation so that we don't keep repeating the cycle. Because I am sure this last video I just showed you here, this man is devastated. He thought, I'm doing this beautiful thing for my wife. You know, have you ever bought someone a gift and they told you, like, they downplayed your gift, right? Like have you ever bought someone a gift and they said to you, oh, that's not for me. Well, I would never use that, right? It's the same thing. We need to remember in this life to be grateful, because it's not always about the gift. It's about the thought that the person puts behind the gift. And sometimes it is about the gift. And what's ironic is that sometimes the gift is right in front of you and you can't see it. This woman has a home to live in, rent-free, even though it's not the big mansion that she had hoped for, right? The Cinderella castle that she had hoped for. All she sees is that this man, that she's going to have to go tell her friends. I can just see it in her face. I'm going to have to go tell my friends that this is the house and tell my family that you put me in this house to live. Like, are you kidding me? But she doesn't realize that this house is the stepping stone to the castle that she wants. And so she's missing the point. Some other woman would take this house with this man in that mindset that man has, and this woman would be surprised in 5 to 10 years from now, after she decides she doesn't want to be with him anymore because he put her in this house and how dare he, that he is living in a mansion. Because he's got the mindset to live in a mansion eventually. And not one that he's paying a mortgage on either. That's what she doesn't see. Anyway, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this. I bring you these stories, bring you these truths here because this is all part of our healing journey. This is all part of us stepping into our authenticity. But to step into your authenticity doesn't mean going on social media and looking to see what everyone else is doing so that you can do it too. It means to realize where your traumas are. It means to realize where you played a part and where you need to heal so that you're not repeating said traumas and you're not bringing other people into your life and putting them through those traumas with you. All right. Thank you for joining me on You Can't Handle the Truth. My name is Natalie. What are you waiting for? Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this. And I will see you in the next one.